is the Andu Kedei Show.
Welcome to another episode of the show. This is a special episode. It's a special moment. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Not only that Christmas is like 30 days away, but today is the start of the 2020-2021 NBA season. Maybe one of the most weird seasons. We don't know. Today is the beginning. We have two excellent games today. Nets, Warriors, and the Battle of LA once again. And yeah, I'm excited. And before the season started, I wanted to do an episode like this one today. So I will talk about like every team and how I projected them to be in this season. Like, I think I'm gonna do top 10 tips on each conference because this year is going to be that playing tournament. So basically, the 10 teams have a chance to make the playoffs. So I'm going to go through every team alphabetically, react to the moves they made, to draft, free agency, trades, give my predictions about how this team is going to be this season. And yeah, let's get right into it with Atlanta Hawks. So last season, they finished second to last in the Eastern Conference. They made some moves. So they signed Bogdanovic, brought in Chris Dunn, probably for that defense. Rajon Rondo, they paid him, traded for Gallinari. They also drafted Okongwu on the 8th overall. So yeah, a lot of hope with this guy. Another wing that is young. Then they put their trust in probably like Reddish and DeAndre Hunter. It's still early to give the predictions on Reddish and Hunter's career, but so far, yeah, it didn't look so good. And I kind of like the moves they made, and I really think they can be a top 10 team. But their offense looks good with the additions of Gallinari and Bogdanovic. But the defense is really, really bad. They were one of the, if not the worst defensive team last season. And yeah, Trae Young is not even a capable defender. Neither is Gallinari, neither is Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic, for me, is the player that you kind of want to be like the sixth man, you know, like how he was supposed to be with the Bucks. Bring that energy and that offense for the second unit. And in that second unit, you'll probably have like a defensive guy who can cover some of the defense misses that Bogdanovic will do because he's a bad defensive player. And if you brought in Chris Dunn for the defense, what are you going to do? Play the second unit is going to be Rondo and Dunn? Or I don't know. I kind of don't like this. Rondo 100% went here for the money and probably to mentor Trae Young. I don't know. I expect Rondo to yell a lot at Chris Dunn, probably. Not at Chris Dunn, sorry, at Trae Young. Yeah, if I had to do a prediction for this team, I would say that I like their moves. I still think it's early. My prediction for the future, let's say like this, could be that Trae Young is going to be like D-Book. I mean, what I mean by that is that he's going to be a very good player and not make the playoffs for his first 4 to 5 seasons in the NBA. I don't know, but it looks like Atlanta is making moves. They said that they want to be aggressive to buy in this free agency class, this market. They did. Now let's see how all of this transpires. Now, next team, Boston Celtics. They basically traded Tristan Thompson for Gordon Hayward on a much better contract. So these are the only moves they made. Yeah, they brought in Jeff Teague, but I don't see that as changing things so much. They drafted a young player with the 14th overall pick, Aaron Nesmith. Point guard, I think, or shooting guard, doesn't matter. I know he's a guard. And they lost Cantor, brought in Tristan Thompson, which I think is a great pickup for them. Daniel Tice is still there. I don't know which one will start between Thompson and Tice. But I think that this is a solid center rotation. If I had to compare this Celtics team with last season's Celtics team, I would somehow say that they are worse. And I think the regular season record would be worse only because Kemba will be out for at least 1 month at the beginning of the season. And without Kemba or Hayward, I think that Marcus Smart would come into the starting lineup and jack up threes with 20 seconds in the shot clock like he usually does. As much as a great defensive player he is, he somehow looks like he's lagging when he's dictating the offense, and I don't think you would want him to dictate the offense. This is why I think Jeff T could play the role of a playmaker until Kemba comes. You also want Jason Tatum with the ball. We'll see. I don't know. My gut tells me that this team will be a little bit worse this season. I think they're probably one move away from really contending for a championship. Yes, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last season. I don't think this will repeat. Second round exit is what I see. I mean, depends obviously on how the seeds will be, but I don't think they can make the NBA Finals in the East. Now, next team is the Brooklyn Nets, which changes a lot. They signed Jeff Green. They brought in Bruce Brown, Landry Shamet, and what? The only thing they lost was Garrett Temple, really? So, KD is back. He looks amazing. He looks 100%. New coach, Kyrie's back, but in the sense that he's back with KD. So, they have some pressure. They have a lot of motivation going in. They all have a lot of proof. The Dinwiddie situation looked kind of bad at the beginning, but now looks like he's fine. Jarrett Allen got his, or he didn't. No, he didn't get an extension, which I found weird, but we'll see how he plays this season. I think he will be the starter. DeAndre Jordan will come off the bench. I can't imagine the amount of wide open threes that Joe Harris is going to get, because all the defense will be focused on stopping KD and Kyrie, two unstoppable offensive players. They also had Shamet to shoot. They brought in Bruce Brown. They are very deep, and they are my pick to win the East. I know that this is going to be, tonight is going to be the first official, regular season game KD plays in 18 months? He comes off a catastrophic injury. I think his team is ready. Kyrie looks healthy. KD looks healthy. Dinwiddie, LeVert, the whole crew is there. As I mentioned, they're as deep as it can get. Steve Nash is the coach. Mike D'Antoni is an assistant, probably the offensive coordinator out of all of those assistant coaches. And yeah, I'm excited. We will see what happens with Harden if he comes here. I really think it looks like he's not coming, but you never know what to expect. As of right now, maybe the team is developing, but this is a deep team with a lot of motivation, as I said before, and this is why I think this team will win the East. KD and Kyrie, they always wanted to play together, and now is the time to do so. I'm excited. I really think this team will win the East. Now, let's move to the other team, Charlotte Hornets. So they drafted LaMelo Ball, who looks like a lot of fun. He can run. He can space the floor. He's a floor general. His vision is really absurd. His shots, if you watched just 5 minutes of preseason match of Charlotte Hornets, you saw that even in layups, his shot looks weird, but he's confident that it will go in, and it went in. He started really bad. I think the Charlotte Hornets had 3 preseason games. In the first one, he scored 0 points. Which I know is the preseason, but really 0 points. I think he might be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. They brought in Hayward. We will see how the situation with Graham and PJ Washington, if they develop, if their games are elevated and LaMelo Ball continues to improve with the season going on. We will see how Gordon Hayward fits into this equation. They lost Batum finally, but I don't see them as a playoff team. They literally overpaid for Hayward. This is and I don't agree with I agree with the statement that, small market teams need to overpay for their player, but for players to sign there, but I think was a huge overpayment. And you see that he fractured his finger, so I think he will miss the start of the season. So he had one catastrophic injury, but it was never his ACL or his Achilles. But this guy looks like he's always broken down. Like he always finds some little minor injury to have him sit out for 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, 1 month. So this is why I think the Charlotte Hornets overpaid for him. This is why I think they'll regret this in 2 years, probably. I don't see Gordon Hayward coming back to that Utah Jazz form. So this team will probably not make the playoffs, and I think it will be top 3, bottom of the East. With the Chicago Bulls, things are very interesting. They lost Chris Dunn, and in free agency they brought in Noah Vonleh, Garrett Temple, okay. They drafted Patrick Williams, so literally the biggest move they made was drafting Patrick Williams at 4, which was kind of unexpected, considering I think Tyrese Halliburton was higher, projected to be drafted higher. Denny Avdija, I hope I don't butcher his name, you know, that Israeli guy from Washington who looks really promising. So I don't know if Patrick Williams was the move. We will see. I think the Bulls front office must have been very high on him since they drafted him 4th overall. They didn't extend Lauri Markkanen. I really didn't understand that. Why wouldn't you extend Lauri Markkanen? It was kind of weird, considering other players got extensions like Markelle Fultz. So I think Markkanen is way better than that. Cleveland, they brought in Matthew Dellavedova. Yeah, this team is bottom 5 of the East with Charlotte and New York Knicks probably. And the rookie they drafted, Isaac Okoro, looks very good. But the combination of Garland and Sexton, 2'6'1" or 6 feet, point guard and shooting guard, didn't look really good. Then Love and Drummond look like they don't enjoy that much playing together. They tried to trade Love forever, looks like. They failed because teams are like, nah, you have to give us a pick. We're making you a favor if you're getting Kevin Love out of that situation. So, yeah, definitely Cleveland will not make the playoff, and I think it will take some time until they make the playoffs once again. Then Dallas Mavericks. This is a really interesting team. So somehow I view them worst this season, but I expect Luka to be better. So the only free agency move that they made is that they signed Wes Iwundu, and they traded for Josh Richardson and James Johnson. Now, I expect Josh Richardson to be better. I think he will be better because he was kind of asked to do things that he never did in Philly, and I really liked when he played in Miami. So in Philadelphia, he was kind of asked to be the point guard, the creator, when Ben Simmons was on the bench or missing games. And I don't think that's Josh Richardson's game. He's a really good 3-and-D guy, and I think he will fit perfectly alongside Luka Doncic. Now, they lost Steph Curry, which I think you're losing a Curry, you're losing one of the top 10 shooters in the league. So I didn't like that move necessarily. Delon Wright played solid last season. They drafted Josh Green. Remember, they had an 18 overall. Maybe they find something there. But the thing with Dallas is I expect Luka to be even better than what he was last season. And I think last season was the best second season of whatever player ever in the NBA history. That's how high I think of him. And I think of his last season. But I think Porzingis is like, I think 1/3 of his games so far, he missed in his 4 or 5 year NBA career. I think 4. So I don't trust his health, because from a talent standpoint, he's amazing. He's a freaking unicorn. He can do everything. Great offensive player, great defensive player, but injuries are a part of the game, and unfortunately for Porzingis, part of his every season looks like. And you don't want that from a big man like him, from a unicorn, as I said before. So yeah, this is why I think Dallas is in a weird situation, because I think from the free agency, trade market, draft standpoint, I think they got a little bit worse by a tiny margin. I expect Luka to be better. We will see how much Porzingis misses. I think he will return in January, end of January, something like that. I definitely think they're top 6 team in the West, just because Luka is freaking amazing and he's in my top 3 for MVP predictions. I think we'll go into that a little bit later. Next team is Denver Nuggets. So they drafted RJ Hampton, who's played in Australia. They lost Jeremy Grant only because he said he wanted his own team, something like that, and the Denver Nuggets were not willing to pay a lot for him, and I definitely understand that, because Jeremy Grant, I don't think is worth that much money. And people say that he's a good defensive player, but have you watched his defense? I mean, it's not that impressive, and I don't want to be rude at all, but he couldn't stop anyone in the playoffs. So he's a good player, by all means, an above average player. I don't think he's worth though that much. So they didn't make any major moves. Lost Torrey Craig. Signed Facundo Campazzo from Real Madrid, and I already see a lot of memes. And this is an international player. He played for Real Madrid. He's really great as the point guard. The thing is, I don't think he can play defense at all, considering he's 5'11" in the NBA. His court vision is A+. So he'll probably get a lot of assists. It depends on how much playing time he will get. But I think he will be a liability on the defensive side, and I really don't think that he will be like the 6th man or even 7th man. I think the wild card for the Nuggets is, let's see how things develop with MPJ, because maybe if they play 10 games and Michael Porter Jr. is averaging 20 and 10, I think they can be a wild card team to trade for Harden, because I think Michael Porter Jr. will be a better asset for Houston than LeVert or Dinwiddie or Jarrett Allen. Nuggets are also in my top 6 from the West side. Now, Detroit. So they made a lot of moves. And I want to say that looked like they were, for the most part of the offseason, drunk. So what the hell happened? They signed Wayne Ellington, Josh Jackson, Jahlil Okafor, and Mason Plumlee. So at some point, they had like 6 centers. They traded for Ariza, Jeremy Grant. No, Grant signed there, sorry. Zaire Smith from the 76ers, DeLon Wright. So what is this team? They drafted Killian Hayes, who looked pretty slow in the preseason. I mean, this was a concern about him, that he was slow. He's a point guard. If somehow Tyrese Halliburton develops better than him, yeah, that will suck. They drafted Isaiah Stewart with the 16 overall. So another center after they signed Okafor and Plumlee. So what the heck are they doing? Then they lost Christian Wood, which I think was the best player for them last season, considering that Griffin didn't play. They lost Luke Kennard, who was also a fun player to watch. They lost Bruce Brown. So what should we expect from? They signed 3 players from the G League. One of them was LiAngelo Ball, then they waived all 3 of them. So what was that all about? I don't know. I think, yeah, Derrick Rose already said that he was going to mentor Killian Hayes, but I'm not so high, honestly, on Killian Hayes after watching some Detroit preseason games. Blake Griffin looks good. I think they assume that Blake Griffin is at least 90% of what he was when he made all NBA 13 when he was with Detroit. I think 2 seasons ago. So I think the Detroit Pistons front office really relied on that. I don't like the Jeremy Grant signing. I don't like that they lost Christian Wood for nothing. I think that was a dumb move. They paid Jahlil Okafor, Plumlee, or some money. I think Plumlee's contract is 3 years, 20-something millions. So yeah, Detroit, I don't know what happened there. And they're, as I said, top 5 of the bottom east for me. I feel like I said it with many teams. So it will be Detroit, Charlotte, Atlanta, Cleveland, and probably New York. Now, Golden State Warriors, and I'm really sad with the situation in Golden State because I really wanted to see them come back without KD, with Wiseman. They finally, I mean, not finally because we don't know how Wiseman is going to be, but they never had like a promising center, you know? They always said that the death lineup when they played with Draymond, that is 5, or with KD, that Iguodala and Stephen Clay, Harrison Barnes even earlier. So yeah, probably this was their only big move. Oh, obviously after Clay got hurt, they traded Kelly Oubre, but I don't think that without Clay, yeah, they'll make the playoffs 100%. But I don't think they can contend to a championship without Klay Thompson. So I have them probably around the second half of the playoffs, maybe playing a play-in tournament. We will see. Houston Rockets. Now, I really don't expect James Harden to be there by the trade deadline, maybe by even January. So the way things go, if James Harden is there, his market will drop. And Houston will get even less for him than what would they get right now. I already made an episode saying some trade packages for Harden and the market doesn't look really solid right now. And if they keep him for longer, I think it would get even worse. This is why I think the Rockets should trade him now, because if he stays there longer and he doesn't get along, maybe he doesn't want to play. If things end up in that situation, you will really need to be desperate to trade for him. Like it's not comparable 100%, but you can, with the situation with Davis I'm referring to. So he said he doesn't want to be there, trade me only to the Lakers. The Lakers obviously wanted him, and look, they win a championship and they're the favorites to repeat. Now with Harden is pretty different because Philly doesn't want to give up Ben Simmons for him. I don't know how much Brooklyn wants to get rid of their depth only to get a third superstar on the team. And not even then you will know if it works. You will have 3 superstar players with their egos. Kyrie's gonna want the ball. James Harden is not gonna sit and watch the Kyrie show. Neither is Kyrie. So you don't know how that will work. I like that they traded Covington for 2 picks because they didn't have any picks. They also brought in John Wall in the trade for Westbrook. Christian Wood signed with them. So even though Harden leaves, I don't think they are going into a 1000% rebuilding mode like Oklahoma is. They still have Wall, Cousins. I don't expect them to be in the shape that they were when they were all-stars, but John Wall looked really good in the preseason games Houston played. I'm really excited to see John Wall play again. It will be interesting to see if he will play any game with James Harden in the regular season. But even if James Harden plays there, I really don't see this team as a playoff team because I think Harden will really push the narrative for him to get traded and push the front office to trade him like, dude, trade me faster. And you already see that all the moves indicated he wants out. as he said at the press conference, I think yesterday, that next question when someone asked him about the trade rumors. Now I see a report. I mean, right now it popped into my screen that James Harden threw ball at the Rockets rookie during practice, and it had some friction with some other team members. And I'm quoting, James Harden has had multiple verbal confrontations with teammates in practice on Sunday and Monday, including throwing a ball at teammate Jason Tate after a heated exchange. The normally laid-back Harden is apparently showing an uncharacteristic level of frustration. Yeah, so he's doing that because he really wants out. And I think this is why the Rockets will trade him rather sooner than later. Next team is the Indiana Pacers, and this is one of the most confusing teams for me because they didn't make the necessarily important moves, but I feel like there are 40 players on this team and each of them thinks like they're the best player on the team. Oladipo, Brogdon, Sabonis, and TJ Warren. I mean, each of them has a case. I would say that maybe right now Sabonis looks the best because, yeah, Brogdon had a good regular season, not so good show in the playoffs. While TJ Warren, it kind of got a weird nickname, Bubble Jordan. I never liked that because whatever. It kind of had the feeling of a fluke. I don't know if it will be. I hope not. He looked really good. You have Turner that knows probably that he's been in 1,000 phone calls about a potential trade involving him. Oladipo, that he said he didn't want to be there, that he said, or there were reports that he doesn't want to be there, then that he wants to be there. He's an expiring season, so he will need to play at his 1,000% to earn some big money next off season. So I don't know what to expect from this team. I think this is the kind of team that, with all things go right, they can even be like the 3 or 4 seed in the East because they are talented. But if all things go wrong, they could miss the play-in tournament if there are scandals about chemistry and something like that. Next team is the Clippers. They made some moves. They brought in Batum. I don't like that. Ibaka is a replacement of Montrezl Harrell. I love that. They also traded for Luke Kennard, which was a great move, I thought, until they extended him $64 million. That sounds like a lot of money for me. They also extended Paul George, which I don't think Paul George is safe. Even if Paul George got a huge extension, I don't think he's safe. Honestly, and I really think he might get traded. Not this season, but imagine if the Clippers fail really hard this season. Like, be the, 6th seed and losing the first round. Like, that would be devastating. And I think, I don't know what will happen, but yeah, things might get ugly. So the Kennard extension, I really didn't like. I think there are a lot of money for this player that, yeah, he's a capable offensive player and a good shooter, but one of the worst defenders in the league. Batum, I didn't like that at all. I mean, I know the Charlotte waived him. I think that happened. And they brought him cheap, so they didn't pay the huge contract that he had. So, yeah, I think there is a chance that this team the Clippers team might be worse than last season. I mean, Patrick Beverley, yeah, he's a good. They still didn't figure out who is the leader. I really thought it might be making a bold, huge move to get a point guard. Maybe Ty Lue is more severe than Doc Rivers, and he will be like the leader. But I think you need the leader on the court. I don't know. The Clipper situation is, I mean, obviously they're built for a championship, but this is the goal. But Kawhi is known as the silent leader. I don't think Paul George can be the leader of that team. I don't think neither can Ibaka, obviously, but who you have? Lou Williams now has a track record of always playing bad in the playoffs. They lost Shemet. I don't know why they replaced Kennard with Shemet. I mean, yeah, Kennard is better player, but I don't think the difference is so high that they would have traded him, but whatever. Let's go with the Lakers because this is the next team, and the rich are getting richer. So they brought back Cook and Dudley. Perfect chemistry, guys. They will not play at all probably in the playoffs. And they lost their two centers, McGee and Howard. Now, McGee didn't really play much in the playoffs. He was good in the regular season. And Howard, yeah, he had kind of a revival season, but I think he was a little bit overrated. And I think he looked that good because LeBron is the playmaker. And because the team was led by LeBron. And Dwight wouldn't afford to be silly like he is on, obviously, every team he played. And he would listen to LeBron when he tell them to stop the nonsense. They lost Bradley, but they won without him in the bubble. They lost Danny Green by brought in Wesley Matthews, which is a good replacement of Danny Green. And they replaced their centers with Harrell and Gasol. Now, Harrell kind of, I think the Harrell signing, I think is so good, not only because he's a good player, the reigning season of the year, but they also stole him from the Clippers, from the rivals. So this is why I think was a greater move than some people argue. Marc Gasol is old. His defense is still good. And I think he will be motivated to win a championship with the Lakers, like his brother. So I think he will really get in shape and be better than he was for Toronto in the bubble because he doesn't look... He sucked. He sucked in the bubble. Let's say it as it is. Even though Harrell can't guard necessarily Jokic, you have AD for that. So yeah, the complaints with Harrell were that he can't guard the bigs like Jokic or maybe even Anthony Davis. But guess what? Anthony Davis is on his team right now. So he doesn't necessarily need to. And when other teams play small ball and have a smaller center, Montrezl Harrell can't bother him because he's a powerful man. So yeah, I think this was a great signing. So not only to mention Schroeder. Yeah, they lost Rondo and Bradley, but I think Schroeder is a better offensive player than both of those guys. And playoff Rondo is a thing. He played good in the bubble, but he also had some games when he didn't play that good. It's not like he was an all-star level all throughout the bubble. And I think Schroeder is younger, so this is better. He's still an asset. They extended Kuzma, so they extended Kuzma to a very good deal for both sides, if you ask me. 3 years, $40 million to player year on the last year on the deal. I think is great. Remember, Lauri Markkanen didn't get an extension. So I definitely see Lakers being the favorites to repeat, to win the West, and to be the number 1 seed. I think LeBron, obviously will take some games off, rest, prepare his body for the playoffs to get the 5th ring. I'm not worried about this Lakers roster as I was last season when I thought the Clippers roster might be better. Now Memphis is interesting because they didn't make any major moves. And I think Ja Morant could make a huge leap to this year. I don't think on Luka's level as Lucas did from the first season to his second season. But I think he can make a big leap. They played good. The bench was good with the Anthony Melton and oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. Dylan Brooks. And Grayson Allen, will he start this season? I don't know. Brandon Clark was good. Dylan Brooks was good. Valanciunas, do not forget. He's a really good center. And I'm excited to see Jaren Jackson back. I don't know if he will start the season because he had a bad injury. Was his ACL, I think? I don't know. But he's a solid player. He's still young. This is still a young team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, not even the play-in tournament. Maybe they have a shot if all things move in the right direction for them and in the bad direction for the other play-in potential teams. But they look good. for the future. Now, next team is Miami Heat, and this is interesting because, yeah, they lost Crowder and Derrick Jones Jr. Did some replacements. Let's say Avery Bradley and Harkless. They also drafted a potential good guy. I don't know. I've heard about him a lot. Precious Achua with the 20 overall. He might turn out to be even better than they thought they would be, but I don't want to say that the Miami Heat run last year was a fluke, but I definitely don't expect it to repeat this season. I think they will be a solid playoff team, maybe even making the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think they will get out of the East. The thing is, I don't see any of them getting that much better, maybe except for Tyler Hero this season. And for them to beat the Brooklyn team is KD, if all the players from Brooklyn are healthy, I think that Tyler Hero needs to be like 1000% better. Jimmy Butler showed what looked amazing, but he still can't shoot. Of course, you have Hero and Robinson who can put up from the parking lot, but I don't see them as high as they were last year. I think they also didn't want to do anything not to jeopardize their cap room in order to be able to sign Giannis maybe next season. That is not going to happen anymore. So maybe they'll be aggressive in the trade market. It's a possibility. I don't see that performance from last season repeat, but I definitely see them as motivated as last season. And I think Bradley can be a solid replacement. I mean, not replacement, but can play defense in the defense that Dragic can't play. Can be put on Bradley's shoulders. So I really like that. So next team is the Milwaukee Bucks, who made some great moves, guys. But I don't think it's enough to win the championship and to win the East this season. So Giannis signed the Supermax, the biggest contract in NBA history. They brought in Drew Holiday, which I think is the most important piece, obviously. And you see them making moves, but I really don't like their moves. So who did they brought in from free agency? DJ Augustin, yeah. Okay, playmaker. Huge liability on defense. So I don't think he will get any playing time in the playoffs. Or if he will be like 2 minutes. Torrey Craig. Solid defensive player, but I don't think you want him in your 8th rotation. Bryn Forbes, yeah, he played good from the Spurs and you signed him for cheap. I think it's a good addition, but not necessarily the addition that probably Giannis saw and was like, yeah, I'm signing here. And Bobby Portis, who last season, you watch some of the highlights. So if you make a highlight movie with 15 minutes of Bobby Portis, amazing, best highlights, you can look at him and be like, oh my god, this guy was not first team All NBA. But then for the most part, he's so inconsistent, and for the most part, he's not the best player. Now, Minnesota Timberwolves. So they brought him back, Ricky Rubio. They brought Ed Davis. And Anthony Edwards is there, who I still think has 3 question marks after his name. So I don't know what you get from him. I really don't know. His interviews were kind of weird when he said that he doesn't really love basketball. I didn't get that. So how can you be the first overall pick if you don't love the sport and you're not committed to it 100%? That looked as a declaration statement. I don't know. Confusing statement. And I know Cat and Russell are good friends and have all-star potential. But I have a gut that this team will be one of the worst teams in the West. Maybe the 14th team. And OKC obviously is going to be the worst team in the West. I don't know why. Something is telling me that this team will not be successful. I'm not so high on D'Angelo Russell. I know Karl Anthony Towns is coming off a terrible season for him. Not season, year, I mean, with all the transpire with his family. So I don't think this is the year of Minnesota Timberwolves. I definitely think they can be better. We will see how Anthony Edwards develops. But I really don't view them as high, maybe as other people view them. I don't even see them making the play-in tournament. I mean, who else do they have apart from D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns? Maybe Anthony Edwards, but it's a huge maybe. Jared Culver, I don't know. I'm not so sold on him. Hernan Gomez will start. I'm not sure you would want that. So yeah, this is why I don't know. No, I mean, I know I don't like this Timberwolves team. Something is telling me that they will be worse. And talking about worse teams, another team that I think some people might have high hopes for, but I really don't understand what is going on, is the Pelicans. So Brandon Ingram got the max extension, well deserved. Lonzo Ball didn't get an extension, which was kind of weird. They have Bledsoe and Lonzo Ball. I don't think how that will work. So if their lineup is Ball, Bledsoe, Ingram, Williamson, and Adams, apart from Brandon Ingram, who the heck is shooting on that team? Who the hell is shooting the ball from the 3-point line? So I don't understand really what is happening. What are they doing? I don't understand what they extended. Adams. You also have their JJ Redick. Yeah, he's a more than capable shooter going into his 98th season in the NBA, but I also have high hopes for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Maybe I'm the only guy that does, but I think in maybe 2 or 3 years he can be a really good player. Borderline all-star, maybe. We don't know what we can get from Zion. I think he will play more this season. Not play on minutes restriction. I don't know what you can get from Lonzo Ball. He didn't get an extension, which I thought it was... What? The second pick of the NBA 2017 draft? And Kuzma got one as the 28th pick? And OG from the Raptors got one? And he was, I think, the 22nd pick or 21st, something like that. So that was weird. They also have Jackson Hayes. So who will they start? Steven Adams, Jackson Hayes. Neither of them can shoot. So I don't know. Lonzo is still is a below average shooter. So it seems weird. And I think they need to run because they have Lonzo and Williamson. But in the same time, Steve Van Gundy teams are not known for a fast pace. So I think Stan Van Gundy needs to really adapt his game as a coach. And another thing, I'm so glad. So this turned out perfectly alphabetically. The next team is New York Knicks. I wanted to say this, that Tom Thibodeau, the new head coach of the Knicks, and Stan Van Gundy were terrific, amazing coaches. A small part of me tells me that the game has evolved and they are not really... I don't know how to put this to not sound bad, but I don't think their coaching style right now is fitting with the playing style that in the current NBA. Hats off to them, but in the same time, to be honest, the Tom Thibodeau era in Minnesota was terrible, and the Stan Van Gundy era in Minnesota was atrocious. Not in Minnesota, in Detroit. Stan Van Gundy Detroit was really atrocious. And he was worse as a GM as he was as the coach there. He has an NBA Finals with the Orlando Magic, though. And Tom Thibodeau was good, great, as the Chicago Bulls coach earlier in his career, but they've kind of been away from the game. I don't know, we'll have to see, but I have a small fraction inside of me that tells me that this will not work. So the Knicks, they will suck as always. Maybe the best thing that can happen to them is Obi Toppin winning the Rookie of the Year, and I don't think it will be that hard. They are all young on that team. I think this will be interesting. RJ Barrett, Toppin, Robinson, Kevin Knox, and who is the fifth guy that will start? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. I think up Toppin needs only to, catch a lot of lobs, do some highlight dunks, play bully ball in the post, and yeah, he really has a shot to win Rookie of the Year. I think he's a sleeper pick if you ask me. Now we go to OKC. I don't want to talk about much here because it's obviously they are the worst team in the league talent-wise. Who is their best player? Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Yeah, I love him. He played great, but in the same time, his bubble performance was... He couldn't buy a shot to save his life. So if he played better, I think that they could have beaten Houston. So they have some pieces that they will probably try to trade this season or next season. I mean, if you have 18 first-round picks, why not get 20? Why not trade George Hill? Why not trade Al Horford? You also lost a lot of guys. Oh my god, I'm looking at this list. And they brought in like 10 guys and lost like 12 guys. But yeah, they have 18 first-round picks for the future. So this will be fun to see how this turns out. Trust the process. Next is Orlando Magic, who maybe can sneak in the play-in tournament. I think they might do. Cole Anthony, I'm excited to see him. Markelle Fultz, as I said earlier, got a $50 million extension. So I think that this means that the Orlando Magic are as high on him as is possible. Cole Anthony actually looked good in the preseason. The huge loss for them is that John Isaac I don't think he's playing this season after that catastrophic injury he suffered. He's a good player. I really like him. I think he has a shot to win Defensive Player of the Year when he obviously will come back and be able to play. I'm done. I don't think Gordon will elevate, as probably many of us thought he might. He's a good player, but yeah, that's his ceiling. I don't think Vucevic will necessarily be better. And without John Isaac, I maybe be the 10th seed, considering how weak the East is. But we will see. Then Philly. I think, believe me or not, I think Philadelphia is a better team. So they were active in the free agency and trade market. You could see the Daryl Morey effect. So they had is shooting, and they needed it. Seth Curry, Danny Green. They also had the first round pick, Tyrese Maxey. We will see how much he plays. Maybe he's a pleasant surprise. I think maybe he has the potential. He's a point guard. Maybe he can be the point guard that comes off the bench. I don't know. I think they are better without Al Horford. I think you will allow Tobias Harris to do some more stuff. The stuff that he did when he was on the Clippers that got him this contract. Play at the 4 maybe sometimes. They still have Matisse Thybulle, who I really like and I really sold on. They have Dwight Howard. We will see how he will behave with the Sixers organization without having to listen to LeBron James. Doc Rivers will probably be the louder voice there. I think that's also interesting because Brett Brown had so many years to try to do something with this Philadelphia 76ers rosters and he failed. So we will... I think it will be better than last season. I hope Embiid and Simmons are going to be in amazing shape. And as Brett Brown had 2-3 years, maybe even more, to have a clue to win with this roster, I don't know how many years have Embiid and Simmons left together. Maybe even one day if somehow James Harden gets traded there for Ben Simmons, but I don't know. I don't think if somehow they will fail, like big time this season, I think the narrative with Simmons or Embiid, either one of them getting traded, it will heaten up for the next offseason. But I like their moves. I think they're 100% better than they were last season. Moving on to the Phoenix Suns, which will be one of my favorite teams to watch. I really love Chris Paul there. I said it. I want Chris Paul or John Wall with D-Book. I obviously wanted more Chris Paul than John Wall. But I'm happy D-Book finally has a point guard. Maybe he will be the scoring champion. Don't know, sorry. Could happen. I also love the fact that they brought in Jay Crowder, signing him. And I think Garen Drayton is better than people think. And I also like Cam Johnson. So I'm excited for this team. They brought back Sauric, which played good for them. And I'm excited for this Suns team because I think they will make the playoffs. Maybe even as the 6th seed, playing that, or if not, they will 100% playing the playing tournament. So I'm excited for this Suns team. Next team, Portland Trail Blazers. Their moves are... They made some good moves. I'm torn. Because, yeah, Kanter played good for them while he was there for some time ago. And, yeah, they need some big men. I think they figured out that how can we compare ourselves the best team in the NBA, that is the Lakers. They brought in Enes Kanter, Harry Giles. Solid guys. I think they can play. Maybe Harry Giles, because he's young, he turns out to be even better this season. And he can be that pleasant surprise, that wild card. Gary Trent Jr. was so good for them in the playoffs. I don't know if this was a fluke or not. I'm happy for him, and I hope that he will be even better this season. Carmelo is back. I like them getting Covington. I'm not sure I like them getting Covington for 2 first-round picks. But in the same time, Dame Lillard is probably going to spend the rest of his career there. So while that happens, those picks are probably not going to be as valuable. And I think Covington is a solid player. He can still play. Had some problems maybe with the Houston, but not problems in the sense that maybe chemistry problems. But he's a good 3-and-D guy, one of the best in the league if you ask me. And yeah, what will be their closing lineup? Dame, CJ, Covington, Gary Trent, and Nurkic. I like that. And I think Nurkic will be even better than he was last season. So yeah, Portland is one of my... I think Portland has the potential, because the bottom half of the playoffs in the West, I think, is so loaded that I will not be surprised if Portland somehow ends up as the 3rd seed or as the 10th seed, but win the play-in tournament and qualify to the playoffs. So, yeah, my thoughts on the Trailblazers are around that area. Next is the Kings, who I'm really sorry for. They lost Bogdanovic for nothing, which was really bad for them. They lost Harry Giles for nothing. They drafted Tyrese Haliburton, who is a solid point guard that was projected to be drafted even higher than the 12th overall. I found that really weird, but yeah, that happened. He'll probably be the 6th man, played point guard. I don't think he can have a solid season stats wise. I think the Kings will not make the playoffs, so this way I don't think he has a shot of winning Rookie of the Year. They brought in Hassan Whiteside. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think the Kings will be that good for... And Whiteside can have somehow a revival of his career. I love De'Aaron Fox. We will see how the friction is there with Buddy Hield, the chemistry. There were some problems with Buddy Hield. Also with Luke Walton. He doesn't look like the perfect guy for the job so far. And I'm also very high. I know he played like 8 games last season and he was most of the time injured. But I'm really high on Marvin Bagley. Not as high as I think he can be the next potential Kevin Durant. But I think he can be borderline all-star. Like maybe have some all-star games when all is said and done for him. So I'm really looking forward to see Marvin Bagley coming back and play with De'Aaron Fox. I'm also excited, I mean, not excited, curious, I think, intrigued to see how Tyrese Halliburton will play. Because so many experts had him drafted maybe 4th overall or 5th or 6th or even going to the New York Knicks with the 8th pick. But yeah, it's interesting. And moving on to the next team, the Spurs, I think this year has the potential to be the year when after 21, 22 years, the Spurs finally say, okay, screw it. We are going into rebuilding mode. And Popovich will probably retire. Because Aldridge is like 36 or 37. DeRozan is getting older, and it's clear that this combination doesn't work. And yeah, they played bad in the beginning of last season, but they have a stretch where they were like, oh my god, here comes the Spurs again, making the playoffs for consecutive 55 years. It seems like. So I love DeJounte Murray. They also drafted really high. They drafted with the 11th overall pick, a guy that was not some much buzz about, Devin Vessel, a 6'7" small forward. As the history of the league tells us, the San Antonio Spurs almost always hit the jackpot on the draft. So I'm excited to see this player because, as the Spurs normally do, they draft players who are not really which names aren't really that loud before the draft. They spend some time there and they become all-stars. So we will see how things develop the Spurs, but yeah, I think they'll be top bottom of the West between the 10 and the 15 seed. Another intriguing team for me is the one that is next on this list. I think we are only 3 teams left, and then we will end. No, it's the longest episode of the podcast so far. So yeah, that's my Christmas gift, my Christmas episode. Although I want to make another Christmas episode. Well, coming back, the Toronto Raptors. So they lost their big man, both of them, Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. Their big man rotation is now Chris Boucher and Aaron Baines, and I really like Chris Boucher. Also, they paid Fred VanVleet, well deserving, the highest paid undrafted player ever in the league. And I think after they won the championship, everybody jumped on that Siakam bandwagon, and rightfully so. He was really good in the regular season again. I think he made All-NBA third team this season. But in the playoffs, especially in the Boston series, that the Toronto really could have won. I think 2 reasons for which the game was so close was, one reason because the game was so close and it went to 7 games was because the Boston kind of figured out Siakam's game and stopped him pretty easily. We will see how, I think Kyle Lowry is 36 now? And some can argue that he's still the best player on the team. So I don't know. We really need to see how OG Anunoby and Siakam develop. OG Anunoby also got an extension. He was also drafted in 2017, as I mentioned before, and Lonzo didn't. So yeah, that's still, shocking for me. But coming back to this Toronto Raptors team, their starting lineup, what will be? So Lowry, VanVleet, OG, Pascal, and Chris Boucher or Aaron Baines, doesn't matter. I think they will kind of play the same amount of minutes. I don't know. I think, given their history, I want to say that they will make the playoffs, but in the same time, I will not be shocked if they somehow fell to the 9th seed and will lose that play-in tournament. I really don't know. This is a really confusing team for me. But what I learned before is that you never bet against Nick Nurse. So this is why if I had to bet, I would bet that they will make the playoffs. Next team is Utah Jazz, which they didn't do any necessarily major move. They signed Rudy Gobert, and now Rudy Gobert is the highest big man ever, which I am a really hater about this move. I don't know why. They had 1 year left of him. They could have traded him, and I think that was the move. You can't tell me that there is no market for Rudy Gobert, that they tried to move him and 29 teams didn't want Rudy Gobert. So that's weird for me. There are also some chemistry issues between him and Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, I think he said this openly, that yeah, he was upset with Gobert when the virus spike began in the NBA and in the States. So yeah, I think it was an odd move. I really don't see how Gobert is the highest paid big man. I mean, he's obviously not the best. I don't know if he's even top 5. So let's see, Davis, Jokic. I will have Embiid over Gobert. I will have Porzingis over Gobert. Yeah, maybe he's the 5th best big man in the league. I don't know, couldn't think right now off the top of my head of any big man, but I don't think he's deserving of that money. And I think Utah should have probably traded him, because I think they will trade him. Not now, not next this season, maybe in 3 or 4 seasons, but they need another piece, and not an ordinary piece. I think they need a superstar, a top 15 player in order to contend for a championship. I think Mike Conley, it's his last year. I think he'll be better than last season. So this is why Utah is a playoff team, by all means. Bogdanovic is back. So by all means they're a playoff team. But I really hated that Gobert move. And not to be misunderstood, I mean, I have no problem with Gobert. I think, yeah, he's a good big man, but not worthy of that amount of money. And I think this will come and bite the Utah Jazz front office in the ass when they will want to make probably a move and will not be able because of all the money they spent on Gobert. Now, last but not least, the Washington Wizards. Now, their biggest move was obviously Russell Westbrook. And Westbrook and Beal, I think they should make the playoffs. 1000%, I think they should make the playoffs. They also drafted that rookie from Israeli that I was talking before, Deni Avdija. I think a lot of experts were really high on him too, because he played really good in the international league in Europe. And I think he can play. I watched some highlights of him. I'm high on him. I think he also has a chance to win Rookie of the Year. Like, imagine if somehow Toronto and Indiana fell off and like Washington ended up being the 5th seed in the East, and this Deni Avdija is like the 3rd best player on the team behind Westbrook and Beal. I think there is a world when that can happen. I really do. So I would definitely have them making the playoffs, or at least the play-in tournament. So guys, I will wrap up here. I said my predictions about every team. This is the longest episode ever by far on this channel, on this podcast. 1 hour and 5 minutes. Thank you so much if you've been listening through this. Don't forget to follow me on Spotify. Leave a like on YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy my content. Share it for your friends to see it. Leave your predictions in the comment section on YouTube if you're listening this on YouTube. And stay tuned and stay humble and stay hungry, because today is the start of the new regular season and I'm excited. Thank you. Stay healthy. Happy holidays. I'm coming back with an episode sooner than later. Peace.